In the heart of the state-of-the-art, at the dawn of the next stage in entertainment, you found no proscenium.
You have indeed found no proscenium, the voice of everything immersive. I'm your host, Noah Nelson, and welcome to episode 387. This week, we're joined by Amy Ashton and Mia Fiorella of La Jolla Playhouse's Without Walls to talk about the upcoming festival in San Diego this April 27th through 30th, where we hope to see many of you. You might recall that just a couple of episodes ago, we talked with David Israel Reynoso of Optica Moderna, whose work La Lucha is produced by La Jolla Playhouse and will be in previews during the festival. This interview is all about what else is going on and how it all comes together. But before we get into that, there are so many announcements, and you're going to want to stick around for them because there's some stuff you just might want to show up for. Those of you who get the newsletter for the Next Stage Immersive Summit, don't worry, I'll link it in the show notes, should be on the lookout for our next wave of speakers. In this batch, we've got some exciting names who... heck, let's just spoil it. We've got Brandon Oldenburg and Limbert Fabian of the Department of Wonder coming through. You remember them from the podcast. Terry Pettigrew and Tommy Wallach of Hatch Escape Games. A little bit more about Hatch in a second. They're here in Los Angeles. Jonathan Burke and Adam Moody of the Ministry of Peculiarities. You probably also remember them from the podcast. Ben Enos of the Escape Game. They're the folks who have escape rooms all over the country. Here, you can find it in Century City. And Ari Tar and Debbie Deer, who are two XR artists who are representing a new program at York University in Toronto. They're joining folks like Wendy McKellen Anderson of Riot Games, the aforementioned David Israel Reynoso, Thomas Pintal of Moment Factory, Michaela Ternaski Holland of Games for Change, who is presenting on a report that just got a write-up in Variety, Jeff and Andy Crocker, and so many more. You'll just have to check out the website because I'm starting to feel silly listing names. There's a lot. All of it's happening here in Los Angeles, June 2nd through 4th. If you're looking to take your immersive career to the next stage, then the next stage is where you need to be. And you know what? There's even more to come next week when we crack open the workshop lineup. But that's not the only events we have to talk about, or event. No. It's Meetup week next week here in LA. Oh, it really is. Coming this Monday, the 17th, our friends David and Lisa Spira from Room Escape Artists will be in town hosting a meetup at Hatch Escape Games. See, I told you, Hatch was coming back. That is also doubling as the launch event for Hatch's Mother of Frankenstein game. Tommy dropped off a copy this week, and it's enormous. Juliet, Todd, Anthony, Catherine, you're on notice. We need to play. And it's going to be a great chance for escape game owners and enthusiasts alike to get together. I've been to REA meetups. They are a wonderful time. And I think there's usually a little BTS action during them. I hope I didn't just make a promise. Anyway, that's what happened in the last one. I make assumptions. It's a really great time. And there's some amazing things in the Hatch building. So go check that out. Then, on Thursday, the 20th, that is us, that is the Immersive Experience Institute, are co-hosting a crossover meetup with the Themed Entertainment Association's Western Division at All Seasons Brewing in Mid-City. No matter what immersive discipline you are in, if you are a creator, this is a great chance to meet your counterparts in the themed entertainment business. This great opportunity is all thanks to the TEA's Brett Jackson, also known as the creator of Imagi-Ne'er-Do-Wells, which, yes, I'm guest judging later this month. Check the show notes for more. So much is going on here in LA, and there's more of it to come as this all comes roaring back as we head towards Summit and we just start raising the energy here of this business. I am getting excited talking about this. I'm just not putting it on. I'm into this. I'm feeling it. I really am. I don't play. I tap into my hype to do this part. It's just a performance. No, I'm thinking about it right now. And I'm like, dang, Next week's going to be fun. And then there's WoW. And then there's the summit. I mean, that's a huge amount of work for me, so I'm freaking out. But, like, there's so much. I'm, like, realizing right now there's so much going on. Anyway, I also had a lot of cookies. So, finally, let's check in on the Patreon this week. Our latest backer is the one and only Toshi, who I'm also glad to be able to call a friend. Thank you, Toshi, for for keeping the needle moving in the right direction. I wrote leaping, and so I said leaping. Remember, as little as $2 a month at patreon.com/noproscenium. I'm not retaking it. Not only powers the podcast and websites for No Pro and everything immersive, it also gets you into our member-only Discord. If you're already a backer, drop a review on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice and share the articles you find useful on your social media platform of choice. They may be dying, but it still helps immensely. We are always No Proscenium, except on Insta, where we are no_proscenium, which is ironic because Insta is now my favorite. As always, big thanks to our sustaining backers, Samuel Mustry, Chris Woolman, Samantha Davison, Eric Shamlin, Elaine, Daryl, John Boulette, Jay Bushman, Jerome Joseph Gentis, Tom Leonetti McGuire, Winthorne, Ryan, David Bassick, Richard Ayers, Lonnie Hanson, Lecker LeCool, the Ministry of Peculiarities, and Jan Budman. And as always, we're on the lookout for community partners who are up for working out special deals for our backers. Hit me up at noah@noproscenium.com for details. Yeah, that's the name of the game. And now, this week's interview. For years now, La Jolla Playhouse's Without Walls Festival in San Diego has been the most significant performing arts festival in the United States to focus on work that takes place outside of traditional theatrical venues. Key parts of the program embrace immersive and experiential works, and it makes it a destination for us every time it happens. This year sees the festival move to an annual schedule and will take place in and around the Rady Shell at Jacobs Park as part of a partnership with the San Diego Symphony, who make that shell their home. Joining us now are Amy Ashton, festival producer, and Mia Fiorella, director of experiences and activations of La Jolla Playhouse's Without Walls. Amy, Mia, thank you both for being on the show and for dealing with me butcher the opening a few times in the original recording of this. How is it going? Tickets have been available to everyone for a bit. Is there anything left at this point?
Yes, definitely things left. Hi, Noah.
Hi.
It's great to talk to you. Yes, we have upwards of 25 different things going on throughout the course of the 4-day weekend. And there's only, I think, 5 or maybe 6 things that actually have hard reservations required. For the most part, we're taking reservations so we know who's going to show up when and to make sure that we're taking care of those things. And we're also very much aware this is our first time making everything free. In past years, these little handful of shows we would have charged for. So we also know there's going to be attrition. There's going to be no shows. There's going to be late cancellations. So we're hoping folks will show up ready to do some wait lists or, put-ins or seat filling. There's going to be lots of opportunities to get folks into these experiences, the very small percentage that are limited. But for the most part, the programming is free and open to all, and you can enjoy it even if you don't set up a reservation, though we hope you will, because it's helpful in figuring out your schedule and when you want to be where.
Oh yeah, and there's so much going on that figuring out your schedule is a big part of the puzzle here. I've actually got my Saturday schedule sitting right in front of me in note form, and it is packed, absolutely packed. This year is different. Everything is free, I think, with the exception of one element related, which we've talked about on the show before. That's La Lucha. How did this year's vision come together? Like this, there's so many different moves here. It's annual, it's free, it's at the Shell this year. What's the storyline here?
Well, I think each year when we're thinking about venues and partners and where to go, I think we're reinventing different parts of the festival each time. And when Christopher Ashley, our artistic director, wanted to move the festival to every year, I think Amy and I had been thinking about partners, and the symphony, the Rady Shell, had always been one of those partners that would be really fun and exciting for the Playhouse and for us because of its location. It sits right on the water, and it is absolutely beautiful. If you just show up with a picnic and sit on the lawn and watch art happen around you, you will have an incredible time. Obviously, there's much more to take in than that, but at its simplest form, you could just show up in the morning, bring your family, and hang out for several hours and just enjoy art spring up all around. And so it gave us an opportunity to look at that venue in a really new way and how we wanted to use the stage and the back of the stage and across the venue itself into Embarcadero Park South, which is where the basketball courts are, and the lawn, and how we orient people. So really still, challenging that traditional relationship between artist and audience. In terms of moving it to free, we've talked for many years about the festival being free, and for various reasons of support and resources, we haven't been able to do that. And it's sort of a leap of faith to take it to an all-free festival because we're still looking for those resources to support it long term. But given the timing post-COVID, everybody coming back into spaces together, still a little apprehensive at times about how they engage with people in new spaces, we wanted to make it as accessible as possible. We know through our history of festivals that it attracts a high percentage of new theater goers, new artistic lovers. And so we want to continue that trend. And we thought moving everything to free instead of hybrid, half paid, half free, would give us an opportunity to see how it works. Are we continuing to increase attendance and increase those new audiences that we want to engage for years to come?
Every time you guys do WoW, it is this really incredible and eclectic mix of artists. There's of course a lot of artists coming from San Diego and Tijuana who get pulled into the mix on the Huge, but there's also folks from far afield throughout the United States, and it's an international festival. What goes into drawing forth all of these different artists?
It's quite a process, and I wish I could say it was scientific, but it is very much a work of love and balance. And we have multiple meetings with our internal programming team, the folks who work on programming our season, as well as Mia and I do scouting all around the country and internationally, to get to see both the art that other folks are making, but also how other festivals. I think both Mia and I were really influenced by some time we spent in Europe over the summer, seeing how their festivals came together. But in the end, we're just looking for balance. We're trying to find a little bit of something for everyone. Things that have really low bar of entry, things that apply, that are exciting for kids, but also like moving into programming in the evening that really, adults are going to want to go to with their friends and have a drink at the bar and dance and have a good time. And so it's a bit of a mishmash, and we kind of start with the things we know. We're like, that's it, that's WoW, that belongs in the festival, and then we go from there and try to just fill in all of the time and the space we possibly can with the resources that we've got.
This is the first year. I mean, you guys did a festival last year, and so this is one that moves it into the annual mode. But this is the first one that feels fully post-COVID, even though, as I like to point out, we're it ain't done with us necessarily, but in terms of where we are as a society, art has had enough time, the live arts have had enough time to sort of react and start to find their identity. And as I look through the catalog here, and I feel like now is when we're going to start picking through this, it's the first time that feels like the works are really metabolized, that the shape of this thing is metabolized, the shifts we've had as a society. And I wonder if that's something you're seeing as well. Is that something you programmed towards? And then from there, I guess we can start getting into some of the details of the shows.
Well, I'll let Amy jump in on a bunch of these, but just as an overall, I think the venue will dictate sort of what we're thinking curatorially, how many indoor spaces are available to us, how many outdoor spaces are available to us, and how we think about the festival as a whole. Like Amy said, we are trying to find lots of different types of work between dance, music, puppetry, theater, and everything in between. So I think the venue often dictates programming. There's several projects that Amy and I fell in love with that were like, we can't do it this year at the Shell, but we think in the coming years and different venues that we're thinking about now, we can absolutely move them into another year. So the festival going annually allows Amy and I to fall in love with a lot of things, even if they don't place perfectly in the year that we're planning for.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the excitements of site specific work. And I think the more often that the site is in the driver's seat of the work and really either is informing directly or works hand in hand with it, that's obviously a huge piece of the puzzle, and for making the festival feel like it's running smoothly and that you're in the right place for the right things. We talk a lot about square pegs and round holes, because God love artists. I think everybody's always in a make it work kind of place. So it's about really trying to find the pieces and then talk about kind of, obviously where we are right now. And the Shell is an incredible space. We've got a lot of music focus, which is unsurprising because it's a venue that was made to showcase some of the most amazing musicians in the world. And so we're not ignoring that. And we are the symphony, the members of the symphony will be there playing out off stage. Along with audience members in a piece called A Shared Space. But we've also got a local company, Blind Spot Collective, who really focused on the water aspect of the venue and did interviews with San Diegans about their relationship to the water, and have created a really gorgeous, emotional, but also really lovely and fun piece that they're going to bring to life with some larger than life puppets called Salty Water. So yeah, and topical things. We've got a lot of conversations around conservation and environmental efforts. I think being by the water kind of just reminds us all how important conservation is and how important it is to protect the beauty that we have. And San Diego is lousy with beautiful places to be, so can't complain too much about that. But yeah, it's an interesting. Well, then we do have a piece that's directly informed by the lockdown, that it took place. Drive, which is written by Sharon Wheatley, about her time unexpectedly living in an RV for 3 months, driving around the country during 2020 when she didn't feel comfortable flying, or hotels and things like that. So it's again about the balance, but really letting the site inspire and inform and sing with us when we make these festival schedules.
How do you strike the balance between this being a festival that takes place in San Diego and a festival that is a San Diego Arts Festival? Because I see that in the lineup. I see a lot of San Diego and the uniqueness of its position in the United States being expressed through the programming. And there's also that, the international layer to it all. So maybe if you could talk a little bit to that aspect of the programming.
Yeah, I mean, I think, WOW started back in 2011 and has had a festival every other year, as well as standalone projects. And I think we've always been interested in showcasing our local San Diego artistic community, but also showcasing local San Diego locations that people may not explore as often. And so activating spaces around the city has brought a lot of people into spaces that we hear years later, oh my God, I had no idea that was there. It was really fun to be there. And also working with our local artists to continuing to explore site-specific work, and so that we create and we expand the field, because we have so many talented artists here that want to work, immersive or site-specific, but we need to give them a platform. And so we develop quite a few world premiere projects that we hope stay in their repertoire after the festival, that they continue to develop this work, and knowing that there is somewhere for it to go. And we hope to be part of that development whenever possible.
And we do love the opportunity to create an international community of artists during the festival. It's one of the beautiful byproducts of if you end up, getting to hang out backstage, and everybody, art inspires art. Artists are always inspired by each other's work. So one of my favorite things to do is just, if I can get 5 minutes to sit in the green room when the artists from Amsterdam are sitting down with the artists from Barrio Logan, and they're talking about the differences in the way they work, or the best place to go get a bite after this, or before you leave, make sure you check this out. And just the exchange of that, I think is just it only makes for a better community for the artists that we continue to work with here in San Diego, and also the national and international profile of the festival, of being able to have artists who know better about how to find the resources. One thing we've been working hard on is getting consulates and governments from other countries, because there is funding there, so we get more opportunity to expand the programming that comes in from outside of the U.S.
Yeah, that's a great point. Amy brings up, because a lot of international artists we're having conversation with those artists about getting funding, being able to have funding within country to come to the US. There's a lot more artistic support there, whether it's for travel, visas, or even just shipping, all different, or touring, that they have access to, which is allowing us to showcase more international artists. And like Amy said, I think being able to make the festival more of an international arts platform, I think it lifts everybody up. And I think we'd love to eventually see some of the national and local work that we're helping to develop export internationally. And hopefully we can convince our government to support some of that exploration as well.
Well, that's a real trick now, isn't it?
I know, right?
Right?
Why not? We're dreaming. We dream every day, Noah.
Yeah, well, and I'm not going to say, and it's good to dream, because that sounds like it's dismissive. It's just like, it's definitely a hard road. And I always just find myself intensely jealous of the folks in other countries where the arts are supported. But I know we've talked behind the scenes about just like how difficult it can be to navigate all of that. And that's something I find fascinating, because it really sort of teaches a lesson about how our society views the arts, like as embodied in the law, as embodied in the government, as just like, oh, and there's that thing that happens, but it remains outside of category, right? Like no matter how deep, no matter how big, no matter how international like an artwork is, or the reach of an artist is, the arts still remain this thing that doesn't mesh well with commerce and government regulations. And I can think of even like, one of the acts that's in the festival this year, Brassroots District. One of the creative forces behind that is Ari Herstand, and Ari was a backer of the show for a long time, and he was part of the fight over when all the gig work laws came down and what that did to musicians. And then Ari turned himself into like an expert on like musician labor law. I mean, he was already like an expert on like the music business, but he like dove into that just to sort of make it more possible for gig musicians to like continue to piece together the livelihoods that they had pieced together. That's a bit of a tangent, but also a way of noting that Brassroots District is going to be there.
Yes, we're so excited to have them and all of their musicians with us. But it is, I mean, it's so difficult when talking sometimes into the drier world of things, how to translate art and artists' needs, or what are the ways that commerce and art can actually work with each other. And something you see in these European towns is that there's a sense of ownership amongst the people, because the government funds it, and they recognize that. Then that means that it's theirs, and it's theirs to attend, and it's theirs to and that doesn't mean that everything is for them to only enjoy, but it is something. It's just it feeds a different kind of mentality around the arts that I would love to figure out a way to cultivate as much as I can from my very little corner of this world.
Well, does the festival being free? Oh, go for it.
No. Oh, I was just going to add that we've been really lucky because the San Diego Symphony and all of the downtown cultural arts partners, as well as the San Diego Downtown Partnership, everybody's interested, and WOW comes up a lot in all of these conversations about activating the downtown spaces and how we can bring commerce and art together and make it accessible to bring people into spaces. I mean, commerce really can't happen, right? Unless people
Right.
gather and are having fun and are relaxed and are then willing to kind of explore different areas. So I think Amy and I are really interested as we grow this program is how do we work with city, national governments to have this exploration of space activation and where artists and commerce and all of that can work together. But it needs a lot of support and time to develop, and that's what we are continuously reminding people.
Well, and I got to imagine that having the tickets be free this year, the reservations be free this year, and for everything, and for having some work that like doesn't really truly need it, that helps with that sense of ownership in the community of San Diego feeling like this is theirs. San Diegans being like, oh, this is something I can do. It doesn't ask anything of me but to be there and experience it, and that helps with that virtuous circle kind of coming around. It reminds me, I was listening to Marketplace this week, the week that this was being recorded, and there was a piece about how like restaurants and bars in Boston are starting to kind of come back up, that like the restaurant industry, the hospitality industry is seeing resurgence. A lot of jobs are flooding back into that. But one of the components of it is it's shifting away from being about servicing office workers in downtown, getting them breakfast and lunch, and it's starting to turn into more about nightlife. Some of these places like food halls are grabbing their entertainment license because they need to lure people in. There needs to be foot traffic. And I like you were just talking about, like for commerce to exist, there needs to be people there. There needs to be people coming through. There needs to be something to attract them. And it feels like we're at this point where the possibility space is opening up for the arts if we can just see some of that shared need, right? Artists need an audience, and so do the people trying to sell them food. I don't know. It comes at a very basic level, right? What? Before I let you all go, because you gotta hop off in a minute here. What are some of the things that folks who are maybe gonna drop down for the day from LA, for those who are just doing that? Although I encourage folks, hopefully a lot of people notice the articles we already put out and whatnot, and made the reservations. I got a feeling a lot of No Pro readers did that. But for those who may be tuning in late, as it were, what are some things that they should point their compass towards and check out?
Amy, I would love to start with just the kickoff because I'm really excited about this year's kickoff of the festival on Thursday night, because we are embracing something that brings a lot of people together. As we talk about, things that bring people together, there's a sunset yoga that will start the festival. And then puppets, our Birdman puppets, will then enter the space, which will lead us into a composer, DJ King Britt, who is an incredible artist and producer, who also is an educator at UCSD, who's going to transform the Shell stage into a 90s electronic club. And then that will, fold into silent disco, which will be DJs from the university. Student DJs are going to dig into their vinyl collection to spin records and close us out that first evening. So if there's a day in the week to come down and really get a feel for a lot of different things, Thursday evening is one exciting opportunity. And I'll kick it over to Amy for some others.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Thursday's going to be a party. I'm so excited. I think this actually, one of our local groups, Tuyo Theater Company, is going to be creating a maze is the wrong word, but it's a structure, an outdoor structure made out of murals that is inspired by the story of one of San Diego's most beloved restaurants, and also just the people and the folks that draws from Aztec lore and all sorts of incredible local stories. It's called Las Cuatro Milpas. And it's a piece. It's if you bring your cell phone, your smartphone with your headphones, you can interact with it at any time. You don't need a ticket. There's no timed entry. You'll be able to show up and experience it. It's going to come with some really awesome local San Diego treats and ways to kind of tune in with that world of things. I'd also say we're really excited to be bringing, finally, we had to cancel last minute a piece from France. The company's called Galmet. The piece is called It's Not That Way, It's This Way. And it's a large string installation that will be, the audience will be key in the de-installation of the strings. And then it becomes a community act together that's led by this company. We were devastated when the visas got delayed last year, and we had to cancel it literally the week of. We were just waiting for every second, and so they have their passports, their visas are stamped, they are booked, their planes are booked. We are thrilled that one will be coming through, and it's one of those pieces that you can rock up on and experience. For a pretty large crowd. We're gonna have this big lawn open, as I mentioned, with the freeness of the festival. If there's something that you're desperate to get into, keep an eye on the website. We're trying our darndest to get people to either release tickets they're not going to use or to put more available on the website. And then day of, we're going to be figuring out the best ways to make sure that everything, when it launches, is as full as possible. So there again, we'll be having signs in front of house folks around to say, like, okay, if you're interested, come stand right here. And as soon as we know, because if you book tickets, make sure you're on time. We can't hold any reservations for anybody. We're going to be getting as many people in to keep all of the performances full and experiences as artistically satisfying as possible.
That is a very good bit of advice for everyone. Don't be late for real.
Don't
this
be
time.
late.
Yeah.
And make sure you bring your smartphone, obviously, as I mentioned, but also bring a charger if you can, a portable charger, because there are 4 or 5 pieces that you can engage with your smartphone. So you're going to want to have a nice full charge throughout the day.
All right. Fantastic advice. I know I got to let you all go. Thank you both for hopping on the show this week. I hope that many, many, many of the people who are listening are going to be swinging on down or emerging from their homes in San Diego, because we've got a lot of San Diego listeners who've been to WOW enough at this point. And yeah, I will see you two myself in not too long.
So excited. Thank you so much, Noah.
Thanks, Noah. Thanks for having us.
Once again, I want to thank Amy and Mia for being our guests on the show this week. Check the show notes. Check out WOW. If you're there on Saturday and you see me, say hi. If you can't identify me by sight, just listen for my voice.
I'm going to talk like this the entire weekend.
No, I'm tired, y'all. I'm tired because we're about 7 weeks out from Summit, and I get the loopies about here, and there's so much still to announce. All the workshop folks are announcing next week. There's some more salons. Folks in salons are announcing. There's a couple folks who are waiting to find out about some travel stuff. It's getting really exciting. There's a great mix. We've got XR folks, we've got immersive gaming folks, we've got theater folks, we've got experiential marketing folks. They're all here. They're all coming. Location-based entertainment. It's what we do. It's been such a difficult road because you know what's happened the last couple of times. Some of you know what's happened the last couple of times is that we had this all set up in 2020 and the pandemic started. Like the lockdown came 10 days before we went. And then we all had it set for 2021 and Omicron hit and we got a few days closer. But it was almost in the same amount of window and it broke our hearts and it nearly stopped me. It nearly stopped me from trying ever again. And we've adapted and we've modded and we've changed things up and we've had to, compact some things for this time, mostly because we want to make sure that we can just get this out the door at long last. And we're so grateful for our friends at Arizona State University for giving us the California Center here in downtown Los Angeles. I know some people hear me say Arizona State University. It's like, oh, they're in Tempe. They're going to be in Mesa. It's like, no, we're going to be in LA because ASU is in LA. That's the way the world works. So grateful that they hooked us up with this, and so grateful for everyone who's just believed in us over the years, because we are a weird nonprofit group who definitely punch above their weight so much of the time. And we do that because of the goodwill of the folks in this community. And, you know, we're always trying our best, doing our best, and pushing ourselves past the limit, which is exactly what so many of you do in the creative community. Making something out of nothing, taking the impossible, and you inspire us with what you manage to pull off. And if what we can do is half as good as what y'all managed to do, we'll be very happy with that. And also I want to give a quick shout out to my friends at Immersive Denver and The Dig, because getting a chance to just get my own feet wet again, and get my hands dirty, helping put that one together, really gave me the adrenaline shot that I needed for this. Of course, I then, a couple of weeks later, turned around and got COVID and had a bunch of other stuff go wrong. So the adrenaline shot wore off, and now I'm just back to pushing through on the general ennui. But when I looked at what's happening right now, when I look at the meetup we're having with the TEA next week, the fact that David and Lisa are in town and doing escape room meetup, that we've got WOW happening here in the Southland, that there's going to be more meetups in New York soon, that there's just all this work, you know, like the Immersive Experience Network in London, our friends over there doing that. There's just still this groundswell, this passion, this hope. I was talking with someone in Estonia earlier today. Estonia. They're from Detroit, but they're in Estonia, and they're working with some incredible creators who have been on the show, and they're working out of Estonia. It's wild, it's woolly, it's wonderful. And in so many ways, it's all thanks to all of you. So thank you for that. And I really do hope that I see a lot of you at WOW and another big grip of you at the next stage. So it's going to be a good time, y'all. They're both going to be really good times. So come on through. All right. Let's do the credits. The associate producer of No Proscenium is Parker Sella. Music for No Proscenium is by Chris Porter of the Speakeasy Society and Solar the Podcast. Special thanks to Siobhan O'Loughlin for voicing our intro. This podcast is written, edited, I nearly said directed, hosted, produced, messed up, malapropped, and put out onto the internet by yours truly. I'm Noah Nelson. And until next time, I will see you at the show.